Hello, I am Nikki Eisenhower, and this is Emotional Badass, where Moxie meets Mindful. It's a show I've wanted to create for a long time. I've been in mental health for about 12 years. I'm a psychotherapist and a life coach. And what I know to be true, what I've seen, is that we don't do a very good job of mental health here in America. We've thrown a lot of pills at human problems as we're losing connection in the time of technology. So I thought, why not do something that really scares me? I'm an introvert. I'm a highly sensitive person. I've done a lot of healing of my own childhood wounds as I've figured out how to help other people with theirs. So when you go to school to become a counselor, they tell you that you have to pick your specialty. And I didn't really know how to do that. I knew I was called to work with people, but I didn't really know how to pick a specialty. So I was in New Orleans when I was in graduate school. That's where I'm from. And Hurricane Katrina hit. And it pushed my program back. So when I came back to the city, I had to figure out how to finish school, how to finish my internship in the middle of huge disaster with everyone that I know washed out, jobs washed out, my program washed out. And what I came back to was a friend of mine who had graduated the semester before. And she said, Nikki, come work with me in this addictions clinic. And I had already worked in French Quarter bars to put myself through school. I had no desire to work with addiction. I had originally wanted to work with kids because I love kids. I love their playfulness. I'm connected to their inner child. It's easy for me to connect with kids. They feel safe with me. So I always thought I would do that. But here comes Hurricane Katrina and throwing my plans kind of out of the water. And I just needed an internship to finish. So I went into addiction. And what I started to see at the beginning of my career was getting people off of drugs and alcohol. It was really interesting work. It was amazing to see people wanting to get off drugs, wanting to get off of alcohol, wanting to change their lives. And at first, I really loved the work that I was doing. I started doing co-leading trauma groups. And what I started realizing early in my career was that most people who are struggling in life are traumatized. And if they're traumatized, they don't have skills. They don't have resiliency. They've been kind of fried their whole lives if they come from chaos, if they come from trauma. And so naturally, if you're that raw, you're going to need drugs and alcohol as a balm for life. So as I worked in trauma groups in addiction recovery, I started realizing that as people healed their trauma, their addictive tendencies naturally went down and away because they didn't need the same kind of buffer. Now, addiction is big business. It is huge business in this country. Just as you know that the pharmaceutical companies, that's huge business. Well, that's on the front end of prescribing the drugs, and then treating you off of the drugs is the other end of that spectrum. Both are very big business. So I got increasingly uncomfortable with seeing the amount of people that would leave treatment on more drugs than they came in on, and calling that healing people. So as I worked, the short story of it is that I became less and less clinical, less and less you have this mental illness, less and less you have a disease, then what do you need to live in harmony with yourself, with this crazy, chaotic technological world that we live in? And so I started teaching more and more and more of emotional life skills. And I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get any classes growing up about emotions, what to do when I'm disappointed, what to do when I'm scared. When am I supposed to push through fear? And when am I supposed to give into it and quit? What is the difference between trying really hard and shooting for perfectionism that I can never, ever hit? What do I do when people in my life violate my trust? Those were the human person-to-person things that daily seem to stress people out, seem to make our lives so much harder than they need to be. Those are the skills that I think we're craving as a country, as individuals, as people. How can we have healthy relationships if we don't ever see the intimacy of a healthy relationship? If we don't see people around us changing and growing, how will we change and grow? So I've been wanting to do a podcast for a very long time. A couple summers ago, I did a guest appearance on the Highly Sensitive Person podcast. I'm on episode 65. Kelly, hi, I hope you're doing well. And I talked about narcissism and highly sensitive people being like magnets for each other. And I got such a huge response from all over the world. It'll make me tear up a little bit. There's that sensitivity coming out. You'll see that if you listen to this show, I'm sure. But I got such a response from all over the world that it really, really pushed me to want to get out of my comfort zone. I am an introvert. I am a highly sensitive person. We're going to talk a little bit more in the next show about what it means to be introverted versus highly sensitive versus an empath. But I'm pushing against my growth edge to give more of that emotional education that I think we're not getting. And part of that is psychology. Part of that is spirituality. Part of that is how to let go and be more in the flow of life without resisting the change that is inevitable. And growing skills, because those are skills. And I want you to know that if you're unhappy or struggling or didn't get the emotional skills that you needed, it's just skills. It's just practice. And if you feel called to make your life better in those ways, I hope to be a source to help you figure that out. Emotional education is a passion of mine. I had a vision before I did this show of a young girl being at home in front of her computer and Googling, trying to figure out why she was so upset, why she was depressed, why she was unhappy in her family. And I thought, I have to get out there and do a show and share. So if you're into what I'm talking about, please come back. You'll hear more book reviews, meditations from me, interviews of other healers, other ways that other people are doing healing work in our world, highly sensitive person tips. Next week, we're going to talk about introversion versus high sensitivity versus being an empath. I'm an empath, so I'm excited to talk to you about that. If you are a highly sensitive person interested in learning how to unleash the superpowers of high sensitivity and healing, I would love to see you in my next live workshop. I'll be in Houston, Texas, April 27th and 28th. I'm really excited to bring together a group of highly sensitive people. For a lot of us, it'll be the first time that we are in a room with the other 20% of us that exist. I'm excited to bring those energies together and to share a bit of my story. And I would love to have you there. Come sign up at my website, NikkiEisenhower.com, and I will add a link to Emotional Badass as well. So please share the show if you like what I'm talking about and where I'm going. We're going to have tips for good mental hygiene, coaching tips, how to take care of yourself in self-love and self-respect to reach more of your goals that you have for yourself in this life. Thank you, and I'll see you next time here on Emotional Badass. Bye-bye. This has been Nikki Eisenhower.